You know that feeling when you finally get over a really nasty bug? You spend days on the couch, but once you're better, you almost never seem to catch that exact same illness twice. It's kind of wild when you think about it. How does your body just remember its microscopic battles so perfectly?
Welcome to today's Explainer. We're about to go on a seriously fascinating trip straight into the microscopic world of your own immune system. Specifically, we're talking about humoral-mediated immunity. Over the next few minutes, we're going to see exactly how your B cells and antibodies defend your body, taking us step by step from that very first encounter with a totally new threat, all the way to lasting, lifelong memory.
Here's how we're going to break it down today. First, the first encounter. Then, meet the cellular squad. Next, the antibody upgrade. And finally, the memory effect. All right, let's jump right into part one, the first encounter. Imagine this as day zero. Your immune system is completely naive, and it just met a brand new invader. This is phase one, the latent period. Now you might notice, nothing really happens right away. That's because your B cells actually need time. They have to find the threat, recognize it, and then begin the complex process of waking up. It's like the alarm is ringing, but the troops are still tying their boots. Once they're awake, we hit phase two, the gradual rise. Over the next few days, or even weeks, your antibody levels start to climb. Your body is basically running a biological boot camp, slowly ramping up production of these specific defensive proteins to fight off this exact threat.
Then we reach phase three, the plateau. This is maximum capacity. Your body has hit peak antibody production for this first battle, and it's holding the line against the invader.
And finally, phase four, the decline. Once the bug is cleared out and there's no more threat to fight, those initial antibody levels naturally start to drop back down. The immediate crisis is over, but to really understand how this boot camp operates and what triggers all of this, we need to zoom way in.
Which brings us to section 2, meet the cellular squad.
Okay, let's dive into this. Antibodies don't just magically appear out of thin air, right? They are the result of highly coordinated teamwork. It all kicks off with antigen presentation. Specialized antigen-presenting cells, or APCs, act like little commanders. They process the threat and present pieces of it directly to CD4-positive T cells. This one little handshake, it's the spark that lights the entire adaptive immune cascade. Now, what's really interesting here is the invisible chemical chatter going on. That's cytokine signaling in action. Molecules like interleukin-1 and interleukin-2 just flood the zone. They send out autocrine signals, meaning they stimulate themselves, and paracrine signals, which wake up the neighboring cells. It's essentially a chemical megaphone screaming at the immune system to multiply and get to work. And all that chemical yelling leads straight to B cell activation. Our B cells are the eager new recruits. Thanks to those signals, they transform into two very different types of crucial cells. They either become superactive plasma cells that just pump out antibodies, or they transform into memory cells that stick around for the long haul. But before these cells can offer true lifelong protection, they need a major gear upgrade. Moving on to section 3, the antibody upgrade. You know how your phone constantly needs software updates to run better? Well, your biology does the exact same thing during a fight. To get this, we just need to quickly define the word isotype. An isotype is simply a class of antibodies, like IgM or IgG. The isotype basically dictates exactly what that antibody is capable of doing once it's unleashed into your system. So let's look at the two main ones. First up is IgM. It's pentameric, which means it's this large, 5-part, kind of clunky structure. It's an amazing first responder, but it's too big to easily get into tissues, and it doesn't live very long. But then we have the ultimate upgrade, IgG. It's a single, sleek unit. It's highly versatile, super specialized, and it lasts a long time. IgG can easily cross into tissues, literally even across the placenta, and do a much wider variety of defensive jobs. So how do we get from clunky IgM to sleek IgG? Through a mind-blowing DNA-level event called class switch recombination, or CSR. This brilliantly illustrates how a B cell can literally rewrite its own genetic code mid-battle to change the type of antibody it makes. It's a real-time hardware upgrade exclusively during an active challenge. Let's break down how the CSR process actually happens in 4 beats. First, activation. Second, an enzyme called AID specifically targets the DNA. Third, actual DNA recombination happens. It splices the genes. And fourth, boom, a new isotope is born. And here is the absolute coolest part. The constant region of the gene gets completely swapped out to give you that IgG upgrade, but the variable region, the part that actually recognizes the specific bug, is totally preserved. So you get a massively upgraded weapon that still remembers exactly who the enemy is. No way, right?
And that brings us to our grand finale, Section 4, the memory effect.
We've been through boot camp, we met the squad, we got the gear upgrade. Now let's look at the massive payoff. Check out the primary versus secondary response here. That first time you get sick, it's a relatively small, slow response. But look at day 28, where a second exposure happens. Look at that massive, towering spike. Because of those upgraded IgG antibodies, your secondary response is just mathematically dominant. It's so fast and powerful, it neutralizes the threat before you even feel a single symptom. All this speed comes down to a concept called clonal selection. Think of it like a B-cell family tree. When an invader perfectly matches a specific B-cell receptor, that cell is chosen to survive. It then expands into two totally distinct populations to make sure you survive today and tomorrow. So the crucial point is really contrasting these two branches of the family tree. You've got plasma cells. These are short-lived, absolute antibody factories. They provide your immediate, heavy defense to clear the current infection. But then you have memory B cells. These are long-lived, silent sentinels. They stick around, constantly watching, seamlessly poised to launch a rapid counterattack if that specific bug ever dares to show up again. It's immediate defense combined with lifelong vigilance. And that brings us to an incredibly powerful realization. This whole system, immediate defense plus lasting memory, is quite literally the entire biological foundation of vaccines. By safely introducing that tiny primary response, we trick the body into building up that massive protective secondary strike capability. Honestly, it leaves you in absolute awe of what our biology can do. So, with the right training, what else is your immune system waiting to conquer? Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer. Keep learning, stay curious, and I'll catch you next time.